Alright, so let's get this started. I felt like that Rumpelstiltskin was the story that would be the basis and the start for this. So for those of you who are watching or who may eventually watch this video and you're not familiar with Rumpelstiltskin, I'm going to go ahead and give you the rundown of that story and how it started, because this is one of the few fairy tales that doesn't hide the fact that it's messed up. So there was a guy that was a miller, and a miller that we know are the people who use the big stone and ground up grains and things. Somehow this miller found himself standing before a king, and he boasted to the king, "My daughter can spin straw into gold." So the king had the girl locked in the dungeon and told her, or locked in a room rather, and said, "You have until tomorrow morning to spin this straw into gold, or I'm going to kill you." And the girl, being very, very scared, didn't know what to do. Then an imp shows up to her room, and this imp, which we know when you look up imp is really another word for demon, says, "Well, what will you give me if I spin this straw to gold for you?" And this young woman stated that she would give him a necklace, and she gave him a necklace, I believe, a beaded necklace. He spun the straw to gold. The king goes into the room the next day, sees that all the straw was spun to gold. He moves her to a bigger room, put more straw, and said, "If you don't spin this in the next 24 hours, I'll kill you." His greed had gotten the best of him. So the girl freaked out, but the imp came to her room again. This time she gave away, I believe, the earrings that went with the necklace. There are different variations. I forgot if she gave the necklace or the earring first. And so the imp took the possession and then spun more straw into gold. And so the king came back, moved her to an even bigger room, and said, "If you don't spin even more straw to gold, gonna have you executed." Girl freaks out. The imp returns, but this time she, being a miller's daughter, of course, has nothing else to offer. So the imp says, "I'll make you a deal. I'll spin all this straw to gold if you agree that I can come back and take your firstborn child." The girl reluctantly agrees because she didn't want to be executed. He spun a big room full of straw to gold. So the king decides to marry the girl after the third spin. In time, the young girl, now married to the king, gives birth to her first child, and the imp comes back to collect his bargain. She refuses to give up the baby, and so the imp says, "I'll give you 3 chances to figure out my name, and if you can tell me my name, you can keep your child." She fails the first 2, and the night before the next one's due, she's stressed out. She doesn't want to lose her baby, and so she goes wandering in the woods, and she comes across the imp singing a little rhyme where he drops that his name is Rumpelstiltskin. So when he showed up for his baby and she said the name Rumpelstiltskin, he vanishes. See, this is why this fairy tale makes a lot of sense in the modern day world. It started off messed up. This little girl, probably off somewhere else minding her own business, was thrown under the bus by her own father, so that this man, who felt inadequate because he wasn't probably in the castle, had to show off to a king, sacrificed his own child in order to get attention. Then the little girl, at the subject of the king, is afraid, has to give in to a demon in order to preserve for self-preservation. See, here's why this fairy tale is relevant today. Whatever you think you're going to hide in the natural world, and whatever you do to live vicariously through your children, even if you misspoke, as soon as you mess up in the natural, the spiritual is ready to come in and swoop in and make your kids even worse than before. The argument I make is that you'll just keep making bargains at the expense of your children because you, who were supposed to protect them, were actually looking out for yourself, because that's what her father was. Something in his ego bragged to that king. And from that time on, we all sat at the edge as we listened to this fairy tale or read it and felt sorry for this girl. Rumpelstiltskin, now when you look at all of these celebrity kids, for example, and you find out their parents exploited them. And so the parent, for example, who threw the kid in the industry, like Jeanette McCurdy, when people criticized her for saying she's glad her mom died because that was the name of her book. She wasn't literally glad that her mother died. She was just happy and relieved that the fairy tale that she lived of having an affluent life at the expense of her child went to the grave with her. Because I'm going to tell you something, however wrong you handle your kids in the natural, the spiritual is ready to put more things in their head. That imp came in at that girl's most vulnerable moment because she knew that king would execute her. And it all started because her lousy father, feeling inadequate, went and showed out before a king and said, my daughter could spin straw into gold, which we know is a lie. Rumpelstiltskin to me is the most relevant in this series that I'm doing right now, because people, to this day, you're still like living vicariously through your kids. You've gotten grown, for example. So now we're making TikTok clips of our children cursing, our children twerking, our children doing things hypersexualized, and we're like in the back, people are in the background yelling and screaming. You understand that when your children do that in the natural, the spiritual is going to come for them, right? The point about it is, I use this to say, stop setting children up to be vulnerable when they already are. All right, go look up Rumpelstiltskin. Tell me what you think. Please comment. Thanks. Have a good day.